In twilight glow I see blue eyes crying in the rain. When we kissed goodbye and parted, I knew we'd never meet again. Love is like a dying ember, and only memories remain. And through the ages I'll remember blue eyes crying in the rain. Someday when we meet up yonder, we'll stroll hand in hand again in a land that knows no parting. Blue eyes crying in the rain.
Thank you, Willie Nelson, for Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. It's a short journey from birth until death. Seek to enjoy the journey as much as you can. Enjoy the scenery and the people you meet en route, for it is all there is. We've gathered here today in mourning, in grief and in loss. We've had the opportunity to share moments of Trev's life, the gifts he brought to his family and his circle of friends, and the way he lived his life. We've come together from different places, and we're all at different stages on our journey through life. We have different paths, and we look at life in different ways. But there's one thing we all have in common. At one point or another, and to some degree or another, our lives have been touched by the life of Trevor John French, known to us as Trev. And so today we've put aside our usual daily activities for a while and gathered here to give expression to the thoughts and feelings that well up in us at this time of loss. And also because in one way or another, Trevor's death affects us all. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Rennie Nisi O'Connell, and I regard it as a privilege to serve you, the French and Dicker families, as we meet again to farewell someone we love. I count it as a privilege to be a part of today, as do each of the staff of Parkside with me, Simon and Mark. I'd also like, on behalf of the family, to welcome those of you who are watching this service via live streaming or at a later time. We're glad you're marking your respect for Trevor by setting aside this time to remember him. If you haven't already done so, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a book that we would love you to sign that will be given to Maureen after the service today. If you could pop your name in it, we would be really grateful. At the conclusion of this service, the family warmly invite you to head back to Parkside for a cuppa and a chat as we continue in remembering Trevor's life. Most of you will have known him as Trev, and so that's how we'll refer to him today. He was a man whose wants and needs in life were pretty simple. And so his service of farewell also reflects the way Trev lived his life. And so this part of the service has been chosen to take place here in this beautiful outdoor garden, where so many of those we have loved and lost have been remembered and laid to rest. And so as this service begins, if you haven't already done so, could you please turn your mobile phones off or onto silent? Someone once said that the majority of us live quiet, unremarkable lives as we pass through this world. There's no parades for us, no monuments created in our honour, but that doesn't lessen our possible impact, for there are people all round us waiting for someone just like us to come along, people who appreciate our acts of kindness, our commitment to family, our unique talents. Someone who will live a happier life merely because we took the time to share what we had to give. And so it was with Trevor. He gave so much to his family, he gave to his community, and today we're going to hear about how Trev impacted the lives of those around him and the way he lived his life. I didn't know a lot about Trev till I talked to Maureen and the family the other day. But he was born to George and Rita French here in Burnie, but he lived his early life in Guildford, a rural locality about 81 k's south of the town of Wynyard, where he went to school. In Guildford, that is, a tiny, tiny little school where there's only one or two other children there in the school with him. He was one of 6 children. He was a dearly loved brother to Leon, to Beverly, to Neville, Wayne and Michael, and he's the first of their family to go. The Frenches were a hard-working family, and life in a remote town like Guildford wasn't easy. There were hardly any shops, schools and medical assistance, and from his early years Trev used to go wood chopping with his brothers, but especially Wayne, to sell firewood, to add a little extra income to the family to make ends meet. When he was just a young bloke of some 16 years old, he met a beautiful young girl, Maureen Faye Dicker. And this meeting was to change the course of their lives. As they began to spend time together, they realised that love was growing between them, and they decided that they wanted to spend the rest of their lives together. They were engaged a couple of years later and married after that. I'm guessing there were probably people who said, "Too young, won't last." But this love stood the test of time, and Trevor and Maureen celebrated some 61 years together. No doubt they weathered the ups and downs of life, as most of us do, but they weathered them together. A beautiful testament to love. To Trevor and Maureen were born 3 beautiful children, Kim, Ricky and Anne. Life was busy, rich and full. For a while in those younger years, he took up the sport of wood chopping and competed in this sport that has its origins right here in Tasmania. He was frequently to be found in the bush cutting timber for firewood, and so I guess it was a natural progression. Trev was a hard worker. He had attained work as a truck driver, and this was to be a career that lasted his lifetime. He loved the trucking life and the vehicles that he got to drive. He treated them as his own. He worked for Spearling in Somerset, and Maureen still has the clock that Spearling gave them as a wedding present when they were married. He went on later to work for Lou Holloway, Des Weller, Glenn Northrop, the Hazel brothers, hauling their loads of logs and cartage. He worked for the Burnie City Council for some 18 years, collecting the garbage on a daily basis. I wonder if we ever stop to think what our lives, our homes, our streets, our communities would be like if no one collected the waste that we accumulate so much of. And it's people like Trev who help to keep our communities disease and vermin free. It's a huge contribution to our lives, and we often forget to stop and thank them. In his spare time, he maintained the vehicles that he drove, and they were always spotlessly clean. Someone said you could eat off the floor of them. His home and his garden were also his pride and joy, always beautifully maintained, never a weed out of place, everything painted beautifully and everything so very neat and tidy. He was clever. He could fix almost anything after looking at it for a bit, working out how it was made, how it went together, and how he could fix it. Trev loved the Hawks, and he followed them avidly. He loved his footy and could always be found watching them whenever they were playing a game of footy. He may or may not have been responsible for some of the Hawks' merchandise that is to be found in the family home. He was a loving and kind dad. He loved his kids and he'd do anything for them. And as they grew up, Trevor and Maureen became proud owners of a little caravan, all of about 12 foot long. Off they'd go for a family holiday somewhere in Tassie. I can only imagine what it was like getting 3 little kids to sleep in such a little van. But they did. And some of the most memorable times were had in that little van. Soon the group of people grew who went camping with them as a family. And their friends got vans as well. And sometimes there's up to over 40 of them, all enjoying the camping life, all over Tassie. Ulverston, Stanley, Cooter Rocks, Hobart. Anywhere they could set the van up became home for a few weeks. It was a great life. A great way to spend the holidays. A great way for their kids to cement bonds with cousins and relations while living in the great outdoors. A great way to make some of the best memories of their lives, which will be treasured forever. One of the people that knew Trevor really, really well was his sister-in-law, Linda French. And Linda has asked if she can say a few words today in honour of Trev. So I'm going to welcome her to the microphone now.
Hello, Cobber. How are you? Well, I'm still here, is what you would say, with a smile. I would say, well, that's a good thing then. And you would say, do you reckon? And I would say, absolutely. I would just like to thank you, Trevor, for accepting me into the French family from day dot. You always treated me with kindness and a smile. You didn't always have much to say, but I knew that I was special. You have struggled with illness for a very long time, and I always thought you were a cat with 9 lives. I think our bond grew more over the past 3 years as I spent more time with you. I also thank you for allowing me to help me with your everyday needs. Occasionally there were a few swear words, but nothing was taken personally. I also admired the way you handled yourself, even though it was not at times enjoyable. We shared a coffee, a biscuit, a laugh, and finished with a cigarette. You would always say when I was leaving, thank you for all your help, and I'll see you next time. I came to visit you last Friday evening, and you were asleep. I said, hello there, it's only me. You woke up and had a conversation with me. You then went back to sleep. When I was leaving, I said, see you, Cobber, and be good. You then woke up again and said, righto then, see you later. I will cherish this moment for the rest of my life. Rest easy, Cobber. You are now home with Ricky, John, Rita and George. Until we meet again, I will remember you and think of you always. Love, Linda.
Beautiful words. In time, Trevor and Maureen's children met their partners, and in time, grandchildren were born. It was such an exciting time as each new little life made its entrance into the world and grew into their own little personalities to be loved and cherished. Someone once said, grandchildren fill a space in your heart that you never knew was empty. And so it was for Trev and Maureen. And when little Shelby was born, Trev's heart opened up to her, and she often found her place on his knee. He loved the time he spent with all of these little people. Another of the great loves of Trev's life was his little white fur baby, JJ. He loved that little dog, and JJ was Trev's little companion for the last few years of his life. A photo of him with JJ is with Trev in his coffin to take with him. JJ misses his dad and often runs around the house looking for him. In 2011, Trevor and Maureen lost their son Ricky from a massive heart attack. In minutes, this life that was so precious to them, to all of their family, was gone. Life was forever changed for all of them. And I'm sure that as parents, there were many days of sadness for them. I wonder if it began to lead to Trev's health, which began to deteriorate some years ago. And there were many surgical procedures carried out to optimise his health and his well-being. He had 2 strokes, and one of them was such a large one that he needed hospitalisation and rehab for some 3 months afterward. Maureen stood by Trevor and cared for him while her own health was not as good as it could be. They were dark and difficult days. Trev's journey amongst us ended on Monday the 27th of November 2023. His family loved, supported and surrounded him in his dying as in his life, and he slipped away from their care to that place of which we know so little. When a person reaches advanced age after having a full life, dying becomes almost as natural as the picking of a ripe apple or the falling of a brightly coloured leaf in autumn. The harvest has been gathered in, the journey ended, the story told, life's tasks finished and neatly bound together like a sheaf of wheat. There is a roundness about a person's life, a sense of completion and fulfilment. And while there is sadness in him leaving us, we are glad that his suffering and pain are over. Maureen, you cared for Trev for the best of your ability, even when your own health has been compromised. His passing will leave such a hole in your life. Know that you did all you could for him as his days drew to a close. To Kim and Anne, a dad's love is such an important part of our lives. Our dads shape us and help us to become the people we are. And when they are gone, we never stop missing them and wishing that we could tell them our news, share the events of our day, and wrap their arms around us when life is unkind. A little verse I found says, Dad will always remember that special smile, that caring heart, that warm embrace you always gave us. You being there for Mum and us through good times and bad, no matter what. We'll always remember you, Dad, because there'll never be another one to replace you in our hearts and the love we will always have for you. To his grandchildren, Matthew, Dylan, Mitchell, Madison, Brodie, Lockie, Jaden and Shelby. This lovely man's blood flows in your veins. He was a gentle and loving man. Always remember the love he had for you. Talk of him to your friends, to your children, and indeed to Maureen. You may not have seen him as much as you would have liked. This happens in life, but you can still hold close the memories that you have of him. To his siblings, Leon, Beverly, Neville, Wayne and Michael. Trevor is the first of you to pass away. He has been there since your earliest memories. Know that each of us here feels for you as you say this goodbye to him. In this quiet place where the gum trees surround us, where the sun shines on us, We remember the life of Trev, along with all of those we have loved who have gone before. Their faces are before us at this moment, and we remember them and treasure them. Maybe there are things we should have said and never got to say. Maybe there are things we did and never should have done. Maybe we missed getting the chance to say goodbye to him. Now is the time that we let all of that go. We thank you, Trev, for all that you were to us, for everything that you taught us. We give you back to the earth, knowing that you will become part of the dust of the earth, as it has been since time immemorial. We commit your body to the earth, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, and dust to dust, completing the cycle of life. We have such sadness knowing your face will not be seen amongst us again. Your chair will never hold your form so dearly loved by each of us. Your arms will never embrace us. Your voice will never be heard. Your smile will never be seen. But as we watched you suffer and fade away, we knew that your time was coming. Your time to leave this life. And we are glad that we knew you. Thank you for all that you did for us and for all that you have meant to us. Ladies and gentlemen, our service has drawn to its close. Thank you for your kind attention. In a little while we'll move back to Parkside where we'll have a cuppa and a chat. And remember, go the Hawks.
When teardrops start, I hear you say, I'm here to dry your tears away, and all the pain that heartache brings will fly away on an angel's wings. When times are bad, all hope is gone. I struggle hard just to carry on. I feel you near, then everything just flies away on an angel's wings. An angel's wings, I hear you say, will carry all your pain away, and all the sadness that heartache brings will fly away on an angel's wings. And though you're gone, I know you're near, and all my fears just disappear. I hear your voice and peace it brings. You're close beside me on an angel's wings.
If I surveyed all the good things that come to me from above, if I count all the blessings from the storehouse of love, I'd simply ask for a favor of Him beyond mortal king, and I'm sure that He'd grant it again. I want to stroll over heaven with you some glad day, when all our troubles and heartaches are vanished away. Then we'll enjoy the beauty where all things are new. I want to stroll over heaven with you. So many places of beauty we long to see here below, but time and treasures have kept us from making plans, as you know. But come the morning of the rapture, together we'll stand anew, while I stroll over heaven with you. I want to stroll over heaven with you some glad day, when all our troubles and heartaches are vanished away. Then we'll enjoy the beauty where all things are new. I want to stroll over heaven with you. I want to stroll over heaven with you.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of love. Walk on